Good morning and welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world where nothing fits. Oh wait, everything fits. I love that. Anyway, I'm going to, the last couple of talks I've been talking about apocalypse now. I just watched it again after a couple of decades and I'm blown away. That's how you can tell when you watch a movie years after and you see so much more in it. You realize that you've grown a little bit. Your understanding has expanded some, and you got a bigger boat, and you can see what you missed in the first viewing. So much like a glass-bottom boat. Anyway, so the title of this talk is As High as a Chinese Balloon. As high as a Chinese balloon. And I tap off of that because the Chinese balloon has been a fascination with us lately. And what is it, just a balloon? Or is there a metaphorical meaning here? Is there something more to be understood? Is it just a balloon? What's going on? So let's go back to apocalypse now and look at it from a little different viewpoint than I did before. It keeps giving to me, keeps expanding. This is what a metaphor is. A metaphor or a myth. Let's say a metaphor or art. A metaphor is art. So when something is art, every time you come back to it, it's deeper. It's like a glass-bottom boat. But if it's just information, well, then you say, oh, well, look, that's a painting of such and such. What else is new? But we have to stay with it. We have to inhabit it. We have to dive into it and be all of the different viewpoints in the art. Digest it, chew on it, swallow it, become the art. So in watching Apocalypse Now, I dive into it and I become it. Now, all right, let's see if I can tie this together. Hang in there. Fasten your seatbelts. Here we go, all right? So, in the overall view of it, this is a classic epic story, a modern story, but a classic story of Odysseus, or the journey of the hero. Joseph, one of my first influential books was Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces. Well, this guy is one of the heroes. This is the classic story of the hero's journey to the headwaters of the river, or to the source of his own culture, the source of his own mind, to get to the source, to get to the headwaters. All the stories, in exploration of the earth, there was always this fascination with getting to the headwaters of the river. They got who's the first to get to the headwaters of the Nile, you see. That was a big thing, to get to the headwaters of the Nile. This is a metaphorical headwaters. We all want to get to the headwaters of my mind, of my soul, of who I am. I don't know who I am until I can get to the wellspring, to the little spring in the earth that flows out to form a river. And the river may flow all the way to the ocean, a big, big, big river, but it begins with a little wellspring. I want to get to that wellspring. That's where I want to get, you see. That's where the hero goes. That's where Odysseus goes. Odysseus is going home. Well, that home is the headwaters of the river, his source. Home is not only where you end, but where you begin, you see. We're all going home. We all want to get home. Just buying a new car gives us the feeling of being home. Oh, I'm home in this. But then it fades. Anthony Bourdain was always going home. Every show he was going to a new food, a new taste. And he would always say, oh, I could stay here. This is like home. So we're all going home, you see. But this is a metaphorical home. So we have to see with a wider angle, a panorama, you see. So Apocalypse Now is about a hero going to the headwaters of the madness. The madness was Vietnam. He wants to get to the headwaters of the madness. He wants to find out in himself why he and his society is mad. And he is single-minded. He wants to find out what Kurtz discovered. Because Kurtz was defined by the army as being insane, so you got to kill him. He's beyond the pale. He's not coming back. So he's a danger. Anyone who goes beyond the pale is a danger. Anyone who goes beyond the sanity of our society is beyond the pale, and they're a threat. Because they know something we don't want to face. They know something that we don't want to see. So we dismiss it. Oh, he's nuts. Or we crucify him. Or shoot him, or exterminate him, exile them, get them out of here, you see. They're a threat. They see what we don't want to see. Can't have that, you see. So this hero, I forgot his name, the captain, wanted to see what Kurtz saw. But just for the sake of this, the title of this topic here is Flying as High as a Chinese Balloon. This movie was a juxtaposition of two realities, the American reality and the ground of reality, which was always portrayed in the movie as the peaceful village or the countryside, the rice paddies, the helicopters are flying over it, the jungle where the tiger leaps out, the primitive, the painted, the primitives, the aborigines, the painted, the tribes, the original society, and it's superimposed with this American culture flying in, whirly-bird. There's a constant image, the whirling chopper. Wah, 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 wah. So American culture comes flying in and lands on Vietnam, but the people in the culture of the army still lives in its own pop culture. And it's superimposed over this original, primitive, eternal culture, the ground of being, the timeless culture. So America comes in with its time, its pop culture. And all the soldiers stay in that pop. In Vietnam had to stay in their pop culture, and they're listening to pop, looking at the bunnies, the playgirls, and they're all thinking and listening with their, instead of hearing the jungle, they got earphones on and they're watching, listening to the music, you see, and so they're just in a superimposed culture, or we'll say a collective mind, a hermetically sealed reality. Hermetically was the alchemy requirement, and the alchemist had to do his experiments in a hermetically sealed vessel that didn't have any corruption, anything coming in from outside. This is a metaphor. Our culture is a hermetically sealed mind. Collective, you see. We're all in that, but we're not allowing anything to penetrate it. It's very strong. It's a buffer. Like the culture, like the American culture in Vietnam, that superimposed, that came in and landed on top of this timeless culture and try to change it. Well, of course, the Vietnam fought back, you see, and we eventually had to leave. And the culture, like the jungle, the Vietnam, like the jungle, returned to its ground. But the culture was like the Vietnam War, was a dream. What was it? It was just a dream. So what I saw in this was that metaphorically speaking, the movie still points to the truth. And the truth is pointing to is that we are now living in a hermetically sealed collective culture that is flying as high as a Chinese balloon. that is flying is high. No wonder we were fascinated with that Chinese balloon, because it's a metaphor. Our culture is digitally, a hermetically sealed digital culture now. And all we have is information. And it's just circling around inside our bubble. Go to Google and you can see everything in the world, but it's all presented as information. It's no understanding. It's just information. And we just swap information back and forth. Even academia is just categories of information. Go get a degree in whatever degree you want it to be, and you're just getting information. You memorize the information, you throw it up on a paper, you get an A, and then you get a degree, and you get out. All you've got is a box full of information. There's no understanding. No understanding, because the hermetically sealed culture is not letting any alternative viewpoints into it. Everything is within the bubble. You get the idea here? So this apocalypse now really, I've just got this insight this morning. It gives me, it's tapped into a wellspring of insight, you see. Great movies do that. You keep staying with the movie. Life of Pi, Avatar, Apocalypse Now. These great movies are epics. They are equivalent to Odysseus and Dante and Inferno and Paradise Lost of Milton and the Iliad and all of these Greek and English epics that have been a reference of understanding for the people in the culture. And we've cut all that off. When I went back to college after being in the Navy, I got a degree in English literature and philosophy. And in studying English literature, I didn't understand it then, but I do now. Education was grounded in the liberal arts. And when you got a degree in liberal arts, you studied at that time, and maybe up until the last century, you studied Greek mythology. You studied literature. Why? Because it's a metaphorical language. It's a language of understanding. So, but now you see, it's no use. What good is it? Yeah. What good is studying Greek mythology? Yeah, you study something that's useful. I'll get a degree in computer science, business. Make useful, make some money. Be useful. That's no useful in that. And that's where we are. We've cut it off. Joseph Campbell pointed this out. He was my first really great guru with his Hero of a Thousand Faces and then his Four Masks of God. If you haven't read Campbell, for God's sakes. Anyway, so he brought mythology and made it relevant, made it useful, made it by integrating all of the fragments of mythology, Greek mythology, Oriental mythology, European mythology, primitive mythology. He integrated it all into, wow, integration means a whole. So we live in a hermetically sealed culture or mind that is just fragmented with information flowing around. Categories of information. Everybody's got a viewpoint, and their viewpoint is just information they got on Google. So if anybody says something that doesn't agree with yours, so well, that's just a viewpoint. But that implies that their viewpoint is a little better than their viewpoint, right? But now this is the anxiety of the postmodern world we're living in. We're not living in the modern world. That ended in the 50s. The 50s ended the modern world, which began with Descartes and Newton and ended in the 50s. Now we're in the postmodern world. Everything is an opinion. Everything is a viewpoint. The objective world that used to be agreed upon was out there, and it was the reference, it was the empirically discovered reality, called truth, you see, is gone. Well, it's just, whatever you discover, that's your study, it's your viewpoint. Here's another study that says the opposite thing. So everything is countered by an opposite. Whatever you come up with, it creates its own opposite. This is catch-22. Go read the book, watch the movie again, the original one. It'll blow your mind. Catch-22 is an epic. Catch-22, the movie, is an island in the Mediterranean, a metaphorical island, where the inhabitants, the pilots, are trapped in catch-22, in a dream, where every yes is no, where everything you say is true creates its own opposite. And then we say, oh, it's just a viewpoint. Which really basically means we're trapped in a dream. We're trapped in a hermetically sealed reality where everything is its own opposite. And there's no reference to any absolute. You say, oh, well, God is absolute. Well, that's just your viewpoint. So this Apocalypse Now pointed out to me that we're flying as high as a Chinese balloon. And one of the reasons, and I can see that in my own life, is that education has cut itself off from our historical, our lineage of literature and art. Art's not useful. Oh, it's fun, make some money on it if you're an artist, but then what kind of art are they selling now is like, just throw paint on the wall and you can get $1 million if you have a name. You see, just throw it against the wall. It's just pop information, pop culture, pop art, pop science. Even on Facebook is a playing field of viewpoints where everyone wants to be the last viewpoint standing. You see? Anyway. Whew. Okay. Anyway, this flying is, it's kind of like when you take a great movie like Apocalypse Now or Life of Pi or Avatar, which are my standbys, suddenly you get a gestalt, a sudden glimpse, like a flashbulb goes off. You see the whole damn thing. You see the whole movie in one little event. In one little scene in the movie, you can see the whole movie. You can see the whole American culture. You can see yourself in just one fragment. This is the idea of the hologram. Take a hologram, you can recreate, by just one part of the hologram, you can create another hologram. In other words, the DNA of the whole organism is in each cell. So in a great art, you see, in every instant, every segment, every piece, every fragment of that art, the whole vision is contained. And the vision, you see, is expanding. This is the difference between information and vision. Information doesn't expand. Information just keeps going around in a circle, exchanging one information for another. There's no life in it. It's like having yogurt with no yeast in it, or sourdough bread with no yeast. It won't rise. It won't rise, you see. So art has the yeast of vision in it if you stay with the art long enough for it to rise. And the only way you can stay with art long enough for it to rise is to stop giving up your assumptions of what you think you know the art is. Most people say, oh, Avatar, well, that was interesting. That was about modern society killing the Native Americans. That's it. What else is new? You got a new movie to watch? I know what that means. That's it. Hermetically sealed. Flying as high as a Chinese balloon. Thanks for dropping in this morning. Let me turn this off.